Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing this really interesting Paiter build that was taken by Callum Smith to win a challenge this weekend just gone. This particular list feels like it's drawing a little bit more heavily from sort of red Stompy decks than other Paiter decks are because we don't have any welders in this deck, which is kind of a big deal. So for those who don't know, Paiter Servant makes all things a colour of your choice. Grindstone mills your opponent until it mills over two cards that don't share a colour, but because they will always share a colour because of the Painter's Servant, we're just going to mill our opponent's deck, basically. We've also got some Pyroblast and Red Blast that go with the Painter's Servant, just to be a useful thing in the meta anyway, with a lot of blue decks running around, helps us resolve things like the One Ring, etc. And then also just becomes an instant speed Vindicate with the Painter's Servant around, or a counter spell. We've got a lot of top-end Stompy stuff, so we've got Pyrogoyfs and Furies to clear our opponent's board out and beat down, and Lightning Bolts to supplement that plan. Fable the Mirror Breaker can help us dig, help us make treasure. It can also find us a pretty sick engine once it's flipped by just copying our Pyrogoyfs and Furies and just keeping things out of play. The One Ring is obviously the big draw here because we are going to be taking many cards off this, and we can play this early because we've got a whole bunch of Soul Lands and we've got some Spirit Guides too. We've got a small little package of Urza Saga because the Urza Saga is normally going to be getting Grindstones, but sometimes we might want a Petal, Opal, or a Soul Guide Lantern. On top of that, we've also got two Legion Extruder. This is a card that when I did a little review of the set, I said, okay, this card is at some point is going to see some play in Painted decks, and here we are. So it's a 2 mana, deal 2 damage when it enters, and then you get to tap and sacrifice another artifact, pay 2, make a 3/3 golem. So sometimes we'll be winning with the combo, sometimes we'll just be beating people down with like Pyrogoyfs or Urza Saga tokens, and maybe some golem tokens too. So that's pretty much what we're doing here. I think the other thing worth mentioning is the Arena of Glory, which can give us a hasty Pyrogoyf for a big swing of damage. You see these pretty much all the time in mono red decks that aren't playing Blood Moon in the main deck. In terms of our sideboard, we have some Blood Moons. When we need these, it's going to be worth taking out our Urza Sagas just to completely stop what our opponent is doing. We've got some pretty powerful Graveyard Hate and Leyline in the Void. We've also got a couple of Grafdigger's Cage, which is just one of the best pieces because this also hates on things like Cord and Green Sun Zenith, that sort of jam, Natural Order. So we have these, we have two, so we can get them off of the Saga and just draw them. So pretty high chance of finding these in those matchups. We've got ourselves a Disruptor Flute, which is just a handy piece of disruption to have access to. We've got a couple of Mindbreak Traps, so the decks are going to go underneath us, like your Ad Nauseam Tendrils, your Epic Storm, that sort of jazz. And of course, something a bit weird that I haven't seen that much of, Untimely Malfunction. Instant, destroy target artifact, change the target of target spell or ability with a single target, or 2 target creatures can't block this turn. So we can use this as part of our aggro plan when we're trying to smash through with things like big Pyrogoyfs and mess up some races. But mainly we're boarding it in as artifact hate, but sometimes we can use it to ping an ability and maybe fire a removal spell that our opponent has fired at their own creature, which is pretty interesting. I think because we have all this much removal, it makes sense to play something with a slightly different overlapping effects with a Braid rather than playing a Braid, so I'm curious to see how that pans out. Alright, that's the deck. Congratulations to Callum for winning the challenge, an all-round lovely human being and great Painter player, so it's nice to see a bit of innovation going. Although Painter is one of those archetypes that has innovation all the time. There's some really good people out there, like Lightwalker, whose channel you should check out if you like Painter content. And there's all sorts of people innovating in this space, and it's a really good community, so always check out their Discord if you're interested in this deck. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, become a YouTube member if you want to see my stuff early, and let's just start painting the town blue, I guess. Okay, we have an opener. We can smash down a pretty early Pyrogoyf if we need to. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're probably not going to be great against some of these spell combo decks anyway, like pre-board. So we may as well lean into the fact that we can smash up some creature-based decks here. So I will keep this one. We don't need many draws for this to go really well for us either. So I think we're just going to start off with a mountain. We can represent Lightning Bolt here. But we can untap, and we can do a not very good Pyrogoyf if we want to. Right, Pyrogoyf has power now, so we can kill something with it. We're going to see a Delver. We're going to see a Tamiyo. Is this something that I'm willing to fire off a Fury for? Oh, a Red Blast is pretty nice, though. Okay, I think I'm just going to play our mountain and just Red Blast this permanent while we can. So we might not get that many opportunities where they can't brainstorm and do some shenanigans with it. But we're playing around days here, so they have to force of will if they want to keep this, and we can always Fury if that's a thing we feel is necessary. Alright, it's just gone. We slowed the game down a little bit. Our opponent is more likely to be a fairer deck and not a combo deck with Tamiyo in. A lot of the unfair blue-black decks don't have room for Tamiyo at the moment. And like the Doomsday deck are now Turbo rather than Tempo. Doesn't mean they can't be Doomsday though. They could be still. So Pyrogoyf already a 3/4. Fable of the Mirror Break. That's a pretty nice card to find here. So we'll play this around of days. Also, playing around days also looks like we're playing around with a red blast for their force. So our opponent might be reluctant to fire off force, but there we go. We've got the force out of them. Pyrogoyf now a 4/5, so this can tussle with a whole bunch of creatures. So we can just get stomping. Okay, bug. We could be looking at bug beans here. A Pyrogoyf. That is kind of awkward for our Pyrogoyf, because the Pyrogoyf can never kill the Pyrogoyf. Painter's Servant. So we could play a Fury. Fury trades with Pyrogoyf. This is an interesting spot. We're not actually great into the old Pyrogoyfs, because they're just too big for our red removal, and our Pyrogoyfs can never clip them. So the options we have here is we can play the Fury. We don't get to kill this, but we have a blocker that can kill it in combat. That plays into a Daze that we've been avoiding this game. Alternatively, we could play a Painter's Servant and just chump block. Or we could let this go through. That's always an option, but that draws our opponent a card most of the time. So I'm not really a big fan of doing that. We could play a Painter's Servant. That gives us a chump blocker. And if they don't deal with our Painter via removal, it might show us they don't have removal, because they might want to remove this first rather than letting us get the chump block on it. So we might get a tiny bit of information that way. We could play a Pyrogoyf. We could dome our opponent for a little bit and then just try and crack back. But we're not going to win the race because they're going to be dealing the same damage but with lifelink. So another reason we could play the Painter is because it's going to buy us an extra turn, an extra draw step. What could that extra draw step be that is relevant? The One Ring is a very good example of a draw that would be relevant here. I don't know if we're supposed to just Fury and try and block this though. I think I'm going to play the Painter this turn. And then next turn, if this doesn't work to draw us something useful, then we'll do the... Alright, I've accidentally misclicked and made everything white. This is dying anyway, so it doesn't matter, but make our opponent think. But yeah, I was supposed to click blue and just slightly misclicked there. So, hopefully drawing us another card when we get around the table again will be a useful thing to do. But if we have to play the Fury, maybe... Oh, okay, this Wasteland is really problematic for us. Okay, that is a good example of why we could have played the Fury and maybe should have played the Fury. Right, a Mountain. So we can play a Pyrogoyf. That doesn't do anything here is the problem. And it uses our Spirit Guide. We probably need our Spirit Guide to make this Fury work. If we draw a land next turn, so we can at least block and trade because this deals 6 damage in combat. Okay, I think I'm going to play a Painter. I'm going to name blue, but then I'm not going to block with it this time around. Maybe we should have just let them through the first time. But now that the Wasteland is there, we are live to draw a Grindstone now. I guess we were before as well. Just kind of shook by this Pyrogoyf really. 5 damage, right to the chops. What are they going to find off of this? A Tamiyo and a Borrower. The Borrower is pretty good here, because they can interfere with us trying to combo them. I imagine that's what they go for. Yep, they've gone for the Borrower. They can hold that up and commit it to the board, or they can just use it to bounce our thing when they want to. They don't have enough mana to do both in one turn cycle yet. Baleful Strix. Okay. So now we get a little bit of value out of doing a Fury as well. Although we're in damage limitation rather than anything else right now. Okay, I don't think we have a choice here. I think we just have to go for this now. This could play into the day that we've been playing around, but we need to have something that can trade into the Pyrogoyf. We'll put some damage over here, it doesn't really matter. If they have an Orcish Bowmasters, I don't want to attack the Painter because they can ping it once, they can play, and then they can double block it. So I don't really want to do that. They can obviously bounce our Fury here, and then they can attack with the Pyrogoyf. They didn't do that in our end step. That's interesting. Can I get my 6 damage into this Pyrogoyf and trade it off? Alright. That worked. Kind of surprised that worked. Okay, they had another one. Understood. Gonna be tough. Gonna be tough from here. We could draw a Red Blast. Okay, we could draw a Grindstone. And we just need one turn. Are they sitting on a Force of Will? They've got this Brazen Borrower. One of the reasons they might have been saving the Borrower is for a blue card, but everything's blue, so that doesn't make the most sense. So we need to not die this turn. And we also need to not get blown out by this borrower that they have. Because they don't really care about the Grindstone whilst they have the borrower. Because we activate the Grindstone, they borrow our Painter Servant, then they only mill 2. Ooh, it's real tough for us over here. I'm not seeing like the usual Beanstalk stuff. So this might just be like what they used to call Team America. It's just like a sort of bug mid-range deck. What have they found here? We're getting to see a lot of their deck at least. They got an Uro. That's a bit more towards the bug beansy type thing, but there's no Beanstalk in there yet. We're not seeing any murderous cuts or anything like that. Okay. We need to survive another turn still, because we need to find a way of dealing with this borrower. A Legion Extruder. Like, we're not playing it, I guess. Is that true? Because if they ever tap, they don't get to tap down at end step here. And this way we can grind them in their turn. They bounce our Painter. If we draw a soul land, we can deploy the Painter and then Grindstone again. Alternatively, we can block with the Painter and then Grindstone. And then if they bounce our Painter to stop themselves dying, we still get to save some damage here. That's probably quite a tight line. Yeah, I might give that one a go. Our opponent's doing a lot of cantripping here. Ponder, Brainstorm. So we block here. And then we fire off this Grindstone, and they have to bounce our Painter with this borrower that we know about. So they won't gain any life here. They won't draw another card. So we only mill them for 2. We mill off the 2 cards they Brainstorm back, which is probably... Okay, so we've got a Kaito. That's good. And a Fatal Push is gone. So we're looking to draw a soul land and try and win the game with that. Fury, that does not help us out very much here, does it? We can take one more hit. We can't take one more hit from this because they're going to play the borrower. I don't think we have a great selection of options here. Maybe we've milled over enough lands that they can't find what they need off of this fetch land to play the borrower. We'll probably have to block with this Painted Servant now, because they're going to have exactly 10 damage. And Orcish Bowmasters. What? That puts us to 9. So that's 7. We block here. We take 8. That does not look better than playing the Brazen Borrower from Exile to me. Now, they obviously have some other stuff. They got one card in hand. Who knows? But they might have just given us a line to win the game. Green and black. Witherbloom Command or something? Grist Hungertide. Okay. So they can blow this up. So we lose our Painter. We take 8. So we draw City of Traitors. We clean out the Grist. Yeah, if they just played the Borrower, they just had us dead there, right? Well, they kill our Painter. And then they force us into chump block mode. And they have to use the Grist that way. And then on their turn, if they had the Bowmasters, they could just untap Grist Bowmasters to kill our guy. Don't know. Seemed like an interesting line for our opponent to take there. A Lightning Bolt. Does that do anything here? So this is 4 damage. 5, 6, 7 damage. 8. Okay. So this is not going to work because of the Brazen Borrower is the problem. So we bolt this. But they didn't play the Brazen Borrower last time. Maybe they've forgotten about it. So we deal 3 damage to this. Do another 2 damage to it. Alright, we got nothing. Okay, that was a weird game. I think we could have played that Swan slightly differently. But the Pyrogoyf is just a real issue for us. How are we going to deal with this? Our opponent didn't show us any basics. Is this a game where we want to just board in the Blood Moons and try and get a non-game? I'm certainly tempted by it. I think Disruptor Flute has some use because we've seen Grist and Wastelands. But we can shut off Wastelands by Blood Mooning our opponent. I don't think... the Saga Land is a weird one because it can shrink their Pyrogoyfs, which is one of the things we care about. But I think the real plan here is to Painted Servant and Pyroblast their Pyrogoyfs. How good do I think these Blood Moons are going to be? We didn't see... Did we see any basics? I don't think we did. I think we won the Blood Moons, which means you're probably trimming on Sagas. I don't think we're just supposed to cut all the Sagas out. Because we can use the mana to cast Blood Moon, even though it's going to be like a Lotus Petal for us in that situation. I think we don't want this Soul Guide Lantern. Lightning Bolt is okay against like Tamiyo and stuff. The Legion Extruder is not going to have that many targets here, is it? This does allow us to sacrifice our own One Rings if that gets a bit sketchy for us, but I don't think that's the problem. Do I want Legion Extruders here? Like 2 damage is a really weird amount. So Pyrogoyf is big and condones and stuff. Fury can pick off all their little 1/1s, but just the 2 damage just doesn't feel great. Alright, we're going to try and Blood Moon our opponent. This is not a Blood Moon hand. This is a, does Urza Saga win us the game hand? Maybe it does, but we've seen Wastelands. Can we keep this hand? Like, if they Wasteland our Saga, we've got one spell that doesn't do anything on its own, and then another spell that we've already seen has a little bit of awkwardness into their best thing. I think we're supposed to mulligan this. I don't want to just keep a hand that just collapses to Wasteland. So now this is a hand I can keep. We can keep this. We probably bottom one of the mountains here. So we can interact with a turn 1 Tamiyo that our opponent plays. Maybe they daze it, which then paves the way for our Fable. And then if we can get a Fable running, then we'll be okay. If they counterspell our Fable and Wasteland our tomb, we're going to be in trouble. But I think we at least have a pretty good shot at putting something strong on the board here. A Thoughtseize. Okay, so they can take our One Ring, probably. If they've got a Force of Will, they might take the Fable. Okay, so I think they might have a Force of Will. But at least this is going to be a 2-for-1 playing this Fable out. We need to hope they don't Wasteland us afterwards, though. Right, we're just going to keep firing Haymakers until we win this game. Or until our opponent gets to ignore all of our Haymakers. Oh, wow, we're just in with the Fable. That was a surprise. Okay, so we've got Underground Sea on the other side. What are we doing with it? Baleful Strix, another Thoughtseize. So they're going to try and take our One Ring and see another one and be sad. So we get to drop the One Ring this turn if we want to. Or at least attempt to drop the One Ring. This blue mana is probably going to be a Ponder or a Brainstorm. Oh, okay, just a Hydroblast. That keeps us off the mana for the Fable here. Okay, we have an Arena of Glory. I think we go yes here. I'll just trade in the Lightning Bolt. Painter's Servant. I think I'll play this Arena of Glory, and I am just going to play this out. They didn't counter our Fable. Let's hope they don't counter this one. Wow, they're just scooping up to the One Ring. So you can clearly see why the One Ring is a card in this deck, right? I think as time goes on in Legacy, we're going to find basically more and more decks are going to gravitate towards playing the One Ring in greater numbers. We've already seen that from Painter and Eldrazi, and I suspect any deck that can realistically play the 4-drop in good timing will do it. Oh, this hand is really irritating. We can just cast a turn 2 One Ring. We will need some red mana at some point, but I guess our hand doesn't need the red mana to play on. Alright. I think I'm going to keep this one. It obviously has some weaknesses, but forcing our opponent to answer 2 One Rings on consecutive turns is a lot. And you saw how they just scooped it before, a Tamiyo. Tamiyo is not as good as the One Ring, but does cost a quarter of the price. Okay, Fable. So if we draw a mountain, we can always pivot to doing a Fable plan. I think we're just going to jam One Rings. Although, okay, the Wasteland. This is the punish for keeping this hand. Because now we have a City of Traitors that I really don't want to play. I could have played out the Painter on 1, but I don't really want to name blue and give them any help with blue cards on Force of Will when we're trying to resolve some big important spells. Maybe we could play it and name red so that we have... No, because then that makes our Hydroblast counter the One Ring. That's not good either. Yeah, I think we're right not to play the Painter there. We could have jammed the Disruptor Flute on Wasteland. That might have been an okay option. But I kind of want to pick up a grist with this Disruptor Flute. Again, maybe that's just wrong and we're supposed to play the Disruptor Flute straight away on Wasteland just to make sure that we can get to the One Ring on turn 2. Yeah, I think I like that more now I think about it. Alright, let's start firing off some Haymakers. Can we get this Fable into play? I feel a lot more comfortable with this in play. We're going to see a Hydroblast. Or just a Brainstorm looking for action. It's just a Hydroblast, sure. Okay, I can live with that. If we find another land, we will lose our City of Traitors. We could always just Blood Moon. That's kind of going to be weird because our opponent's got these clues to crack. So they can eventually just start Planeswalking with their Tamiyo and draw half their deck and then find what they need. But we should be able to find a Red Blast at some point in that exchange. With a Bloom Command. So they're going to get back the Wasteland. They're going to Wasteland us. Yeah. I think not playing the Disruptor Flute on Wasteland in the first turn cycle is going to cost us this whole game, you know. We do get to try and Lightning Bolt this to stop them having anything... Like, obviously they're just going to crack a load of clues and stuff. I don't think I played this one very well. I think if we should have just tried the Disruptor Flute. Now, they might have counterspelled it. It might not have done anything. Eventually they would have Witherbloom command it and turned their Wastelands on, but we would have had a couple of turns of mana here. The Pyrogoyf we've already discovered is horrific for our deck to play against. Come on, mana. No mana. So this doesn't kill anything. Yeah, I think our turn 1 choice of play there. I think we're supposed to just keep our mana when it's that fragile and protect it with the Disruptor Flute. Now our opponent's drawing an extra card every turn, plus whatever they get off of these Tamiyo Clues. Okay, they swing and a miss on the Pyrogoyf. Lightning Bolt doesn't do very much for us here. Is that true? I guess we could Fury pitch Pyrogoyf. So they still have to basically land there as well. Do we pitch? Probably have to pitch the Blood Moon here. This is quite an obvious we have a Lightning Bolt in hand line. But you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So are there any creatures in the graveyard? No. So this will grow when the Fury resolves. So we need to resolve the 4 damage. And then we need to Lightning Bolt it. I guess 7 will be fine anyway. But we just don't want to give our opponent any way of growing this. Right, cracking a clue. Okay, so we've stemmed the tide of damage, but our opponent has got a lot of cards to work with because they've got these clue tokens to crack, and we are still nowhere near casting our spells. If at some point we cast the One Ring, we probably can ride that to victory. Okay, maybe not anymore because of the Bowmasters, but we do have an answer for the Bowmasters. So there is that. The Painter can block the Bowmasters for a while. Okay, they have another Pyrogoyf. This is not a card that our deck is very good against. A red Elemental Blast. So this is 5, 6, 7. If I draw a Soul Land and it's an Ancient Tomb, 8, 9, and we're dead. But we need to draw a City of Traitors, I think, to have a chance here. This game could have been a lot different if we'd have just played the Disruptor Flute. I even brought it in mentioning Wasteland as one of the things I would want to hit. I did lean more towards thinking it as a Grist answer that allows them to break out of whatever. But I think we should have just named the Wasteland, especially with the way our hand was keyed up. So I'm going to put us to 3. So we do need to find a City of Traitors and hope our opponent doesn't have additional things to add to the board. Our opponent's deck looks quite cool. The black threats at the moment are really good, which kind of makes the red blast a little bit weaker overall. Come on, City of Traitors. Not a City of Traitors. We are dead. Yeah, we misplayed that game. I think that was just a mistake. We were just trying to save this for something else, and we just got absolutely bodied by a Wasteland that we definitely could have prevented. Now, do we know the Disruptor Flute is resolving? No. Do we know that it's going to stay in play for very long? No. But it would have made a difference. I think we at least get round the table once and then get to put a One Ring on the stack before they start blowing our stuff up. So there is a lesson right there. I think we should have definitely played the Disruptor Flute out. Let's go to round 2. Okay, we can try a turn 1 Fable and a turn 2 Fable if we want to. Or we can have a more stable mana base and just try turn 2, turn 3 Fable. I think I'd rather have a stable mana base, but maybe I'm just shook from the previous round. Alright, I'm going to go for the turn 1 Fable. Let's not be a coward. Because this way we don't have to worry about things like days getting in the way. We can just play a big thing. If this resolves, we're going to be very far ahead unless our opponent's just going to wombo combo us. Alright, we're in with the Fable. So, good decision. We're now looking pretty strong here. This gives us the extra mana that we can play Fables quite nicely. Once upon a time, we're looking at Eldrazi. We're looking at some kind of Cloud Post deck, Cradle Control, a Wasteland. Okay, Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Wasteland. This screams Eldrazi to me alongside the Once Upon a Time. So we're going to be needing those Blood Moons, is what you're telling me. Okay, command, just on our little guy. Okay. Well, I've got another one. Let's see what we draw and see how many cards we want to pitch this Fable. So I want to just keep running Fables. I think we're getting rid of one Mountain. I would like to keep this Tomb because we're probably losing our City of Traitors this turn. Do we keep the third Fable? I don't think we keep the third Fable. Maybe that's wrong given the nature of how good Fables are. But we'll see. Float some mana. Deploy a second Fable. And now we can try and dig towards Painter and get these Red Blast being the Vindicators that we know and love. Thought Not Seer. Not great news for us. 4 toughness is certainly more than we can deal right now. And just losing a card gives us less cards that we get to loot through with the Fable. Gonna be tough from this point. Okay, not so bad. So we can attack, bolt, bolt. I don't think we're discarding anything in that case. Like, we could discard the Ancient Tomb, but I think we're going to need the mana down the stretch. So we're going to say no to this. Then we attack, make a treasure, double bolt this. This does get us a card back, which is always nice. The One Ring, that's quite the Magic the Gathering card, isn't it? Wouldn't mind jamming that next turn. So we don't play this Wasteland out in... So we don't play this Ancient Tomb out into the Wasteland, because next turn we can attack and just make ourselves the One Ring. And that should hopefully do enough to run away with the game, especially when we've got 2 Reflection of Kiki-Jikis that can start doing stuff. A One Ring. Okay, we're both just doing that, are we? It's One Ring's world and we're living in it. I don't think that's actually the case. Not like it was in Modern anyway, but I think One Ring is definitely the defining card of Ancient Tomb decks these days. So we have a combo we can just leverage, so we don't need to try and outdraw our opponent, we just need to draw 2 very specific things. Right, so we get the Fable Mirror Breaker flipped. We will attack with our Goblin Shaman token to get our treasure. They won't block because the One Ring protects them. But then we get to be casting the One Ring as well. The Wasteland sitting in our opponent's hand is definitely going to cause us a little bit of issues down the line, because we need enough mana to deploy the things we're drawing off the One Ring, whereas our opponent has mana just covered over there. But the Ancient Tombs are burning a hole in their pocket. How many types have we got in graveyards? Artifact, enchantment, land, instant, creature, sorcery. Pyrogoyf's going to be big. Maybe we just dome our opponent with a Pyrogoyf. Don't mind that. But we can't die this turn at least. They could try and kill us in the upkeep with something like a chain of Kozilek's commands. Just one into the other, into the other, into the other, making guys. That can kill us out of nowhere. Chance of Void executes 1. So no Grindstone while this is in play. We can tutor up a Grindstone in a different way, but we're probably just looking at Pyrogoyf to win the game now. And they didn't play the Wasteland, which allows us to Pyrogoyf more easily. Alright. Can we find a Pyrogoyf? Not a Pyrogoyf. Can we find it off the One Ring? Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is interesting. It's not that interesting, actually, is it? They have a Chalice of the Void. Ignore me. So we have this mountain. We can make guys. We can make a lot of guys. But we are very much in let's draw Pyrogoyf and hope it works. Am I attacking with this guy? I think I am. Let's get this treasure. So this means that even if they wasteland us, we still have the mana to cast a Pyrogoyf next turn. Oh wow, we're even getting an Eldrazi spawn. That's pretty good, because that is 2 mana, because it's 1 mana for the spawn, 1 mana for the cradle. Okay, that's something. Although they could tap the One Ring and maybe just drain us out here if they have enough Kozilek's commands. But Pyrogoyf is 100% lethal at this point. Unless they play another copy of the One Ring. Oh wow, they're just scooping it up. They just must have drawn badly, I guess. Wow. Very surprised to have won that one. Alright, Blood Moons, get in here. So probably boarding out a couple of Sagas. The Legion Extruders are fine here. The Bolts are okay. We've bought out some Blasts. They seem less useful. We still want some. Actually, we want these Untimely Malfunctions as well, I think. So we'll probably get rid of a couple more Blasts. Just have a couple in there that we can draw. That seems alright to me. We could bring in the Disruptor Flute for a Wasteland. I think we're just trying to leverage the Blood Moons more. Maybe we're not supposed to board out the Sagas when boarding in the Blood Moon, but we definitely don't want to be drawing Sagas after we've Blood Mooned. 19 mana producing lands is still a decent chunk. We've got a couple of Spirit Guides as well to help us out. I think it'll be fine. Okay, this is a turn 2 Blood Moon. I will keep that. This is a sort of hand that can bury our opponent quite quickly. If they have anything on turn 1, we can try and bolt it. Okay, a Null Rod. Sure. We boarded in the thing to blow that up. Okay, we can just turn 1 Blood Moon here instead. That's even better. Get out of town, opponent. Is this enough just to lock the game out forever? No. Is it going to delay them quite a bit and let us work our way into this game? Very much so. And that's all we really need. They don't have a Chalice. I think you definitely play a Chalice if you kept it in there. Next turn we can play the Fable and then just do some classic red Stompy stuff. We can cycle some cards away, grow our Pyrogoyf, that sort of jazz. Another mountain for our opponent there. Blood Moon is so savage against Eldrazi. It's actually the reason why Eldrazi aren't doing very well at the moment. Because the best Ancient Tomb deck is the mono-red Stompy style decks. And they just absolutely gobble up these Eldrazi decks. Because before, mono-red Stompy was having a tough time with all the Karn Forge decks, but now those have kind of petered out a little bit. They've sort of risen up again. I'll get rid of these two. Just grow our Pyrogoyf. Let's attack. It's only a 2/3. I kind of want to use it as removal, so I'm probably just going to dump a couple of Painters into play. So we'll name blue, because we still have 2 Pyroblasts in our deck. Just get more of a clock going. So we can now Pyroblast and Null Rod. That's the reason you always leave Pyroblast in some number, because you do get this chance to just take out problem permanents. It's just a nice catch-all alongside the Painter. They have a Lotus Petal. So the chance of them being able to play a Sown Mycospawn Spawn are very much there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They can even kick it. No, they can't kick it. They haven't got any colours, mana. Okay, not interested in that. Play this one out. We'll crack for 4 here. Alright, they're just scooping it up. Blood Moon is strong. I'm surprised we won the first one when they got to One Ring first and just had a Flesh Raker down. They had 8 cards in hand and scooped it. That's kind of wild to me. I guess they weren't dead to their One Ring on the next turn though, so they could have taken one more turn of draws. But I guess they had a lot of Ancient Tombs kicking around, so they weren't able to cast spells very easily. Tricky one. Alright, let's go to round 3. Well, not tricky for us, but tricky for them. Alright, round 3 it is. Okay, so we have a turn to Fable, but it does come with some caveats, because we have to use a City of Traitors to power that out. But I think that's probably fine. I think we'll keep this. Fable means that we are odds on to find some more lands. It also produces mana, so it can kind of counteract the fact that we'll be losing the City of Traitors. So let's just hold its Pyroblast. I doubt we're going to use it, but if our opponent's playing like an Echo of Eons combo deck, we're going to feel really smart for having this Pyroblast up. Volcanic Island and nothing. Right, let's try this Fable. Alright, we're in with the Fable. So, Volcanic Island nothing is kind of odd. No Ponder, no Brainstorm or anything like that, which you might see in a combo deck. Okay, so here's a Brainstorm now. We need to ask ourselves, from this point on, do we need to hold up this Pyroblast at all times? If we're thinking show and tell, then we're going to need to make sure we do that. Hopefully this turn will give us some information. Nope, no Delver, no anything. I don't really know what to expect now. Yes, what we're going to throw away. I don't think this is going to be a Fury matchup. I'm a little bit reluctant about this Saga. I think I'm just going to get rid of... I haven't played any creatures yet. I am just getting show and tell vibes. Kind of want to keep the other red source. I think it's the Bolt. Play this Petal out. And then I'm going to play out this... I think I'm going to play out this Saga. So we have to make a decision here. Are we going to just play out this Pyrogoyf and not be able to play around a Daze if we need to Pyroblast? Or are we just going to play the Spirit Guide? I think we play the Spirit Guide to play around Daze. Just get some more meat on the board. I guess if we play the Pyrogoyf, we can still play around Daze, actually, right? Because we have the Treasure and the Lotus Petal. But then we can't play around Daze with both spells. Not that we wouldn't really care about Daze on the Spirit Guide. We might care about Daze on the Pyrogoyf. Because we have to just let the Pyrogoyf go if they have the Daze there. And we have plenty of muscle coming in. The Thundering Falls is very highly suggesting that we're looking at Sneak and Show here. The One Ring. Yeah, that's a Mighty Fine Magic the Gathering card. This is definitely Sneak and Show. Or Omni Sneak, or whatever you want to call it, depending on the particular configuration. I wonder if they're running the Abhorrent Oculus, which is something I've seen some people doing, and it's been quite impressive to me. Right. So we're going to get our little guy that copies stuff. So if we play this... We can just play out the Ancient Tomb here, and we can play around double Daze then. I would attack with the Shaman because it gives us a treasure, makes our guy bigger, gives us more mana for down the stretch. We just play around lots and lots of permission here by playing out the Ancient Tomb. I don't think our life total is that relevant. Alright, the One Ring is chugging. We can also make hasty Pyrogoyfs off of the Reflection of Kikijiki. And when a Pyrogoyf sees another Pyrogoyf enter, they both trigger. So the second one will deal 6 damage rather than 3. City of Traitors. is going bye-bye. A show and tell. See if we can Pyroblast this. So if our opponent has a counter spell and we're trying to save this for an Omniscience, that's not going to work either because they just counter spell our Pyroblast. Force of Will. Pitching a Traxxas. So that's one of the things they would have potentially wanted to put in. I guess we're getting a Pyrogoyf in now. If they just put in an Emrakul, we can beat that. Traxxas. We can maybe beat this. Okay, so have an Emrakul and an Atraxa. That is 21 damage. 22 damage, sorry. So we are just dead here. Alright, I will concede that game. Okay, Disruptor Flute has some text here. Nothing else really feels great. Like, Untimely Malfunction is destroyed, so we're not going to be able to hit the One Ring. We're just swapping out the Disruptor Flute and the Saga Lantern, I think. We've got a lot of Pyroblast. That's the sort of thing I would quite like to have in this matchup. I don't think the Blood Moons matter. Our opponent has them in their own deck in the sideboard anyway. Yeah, I think this is what we're going with. So, this hand is fine, but if we're trying to play the show and tell matchup, is turn 2 Fable and Mindbreaker really doing the work for us? I don't think it is. I think we need to have some access to some Red Blasts here. Or something. Don't like this one very much either. Alright, I will keep this one. It's not great though. Chuck back this and an Ancient Tomb. I think our combo is just slower than our opponents most of the time. We haven't actually comboed anyone yet. We've just beaten them down. But yeah, we need to be defensive here because our opponent has the ability to just kill us on turn 2 some amount of the time. Ponder. I don't think we're Pyroblasting the Ponder, but there is an argument to it. So next step is play a Mountain, hold up a second Pyroblast, and hopefully we can go through. But if our opponent just sneak attacks, then that's going to suck for us. Not anymore because we have the Disruptor Flute. We don't really want to cast the Disruptor Flute right now though, because it goes straight into a daze that way. Next time we can get this Ancient Tomb going. And also protect it with the Pyroblast if we need to. A Brainstorm from our opponent with a fetch land. If we had some sort of presence on board, I would be tempted to Pyroblast some cantrips to slow our opponent's ability to sculpt their hand down, because we'd be pressuring them at the same time. Because that's not the case, we need to fight over the important thing later on, because there is going to be a later on, because we are not doing anything right now. Okay, they've got 8 cards in hand. They're going to have to go to cleanup. I don't really want to give them a free option to pitch some cards here, so I'm just going to let them go to cleanup. I don't just want to play this Disruptor Flute and let them have a Force of Will that feels like they're only discarding 1 card. Because they're going to discard a card at end step anyway. And a Braid. Okay, I'm glad they discarded that Braid. I'll pass it over. Do I think they have another Braid? We're going to try this Disruptor Flute. Alright, they didn't have an Abrade style card, otherwise I would have fired it off then. In the end step. Okay, I guess we're just sitting on these Pyroblasts. And at some point we can commit a Fury to the board, or that does go shields down on the Pyroblasts. Our opponent is missing land drops. Am I supposed to Pyroblast this? I don't think so. Like, the only thing that can beat us is them removing the sneak attack, then playing sneak attack, or them resolving a show and tell. So having 2 answers for show and tell makes a lot of sense. A Fury. Wow. Okay. We need some more mana. Playing draw go, but our opponent is having to go to cleanup. Again. Alright, they got rid of sneak attack. A Simian Spirit Guide. So we could play a Fury here, but it just goes fully shields down on our Pyroblast. And I don't think we get to do that. Our opponent is clearly playing around Pyroblast over there. Alright, he's going to send it, are they? Let's Pyroblast this. Can't target spell if it's blue. We're going to see a Force of Will here. Let's Force of Will resolve. And we'll fire this other Pyroblast. So now we're going to play out the Fury because we haven't got any other thing else to do here. Oh, they got a second Force of Will, eh? Okay. So I think we're just going to Show and Tell and a Fury and die. We actually get to kill this as well now. We'll do this right now when our opponent doesn't have all the cards from the Atraxa. Okay. So they're going to have a whole new hand. Going to have some options here. Because there is another Show and Tell over there. So definitely going to take that Show and Tell. And probably put in the Omniscience. We need like a Pyrogoyf. That's probably going to be a lot of damage. Is that enough to kill our opponent? Maybe. So City of Traitors, Lotus Petal, Omniscience, Show and Tell. Alright, next turn's probably going to be pretty horrible for us. Playing out the City, of course, and the Lotus Petal. Oh wait, no, they can do it right now, can't they? They can Show and Tell with the City Petal. Do they have anything to put in, though? If they don't have anything to put in right now, then we win. Emrakul. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, we're just dead. Yeah, that felt tough. I don't have a lot of experience with Painter into Show and Tell matchups, and obviously we're playing a slightly different Painter build as well, where we don't have the early drops, you know, just like your welders and your engineers, where it's easier to hold up other spells around them. We just kind of got big haymakers, and it felt like we always had to hold up, and they just had the answers. Yeah, a bit of a tricky one, that one. Let's go to round 4. The mana in this hand does not play, so we're going to send this one back. Okay. Turn 1 Fable. Or we could do turn 1 Painter, Grindstone, turn 2 kill them, holding up Pyroblast. No, we can't do turn 1 Painter. We go turn 1 Painter, hold up Pyroblast. Turn 2 play Saga, play Grindstone, activate Grindstone. Alright, we've got some options here. We have to put a card back, so we do need to make a decision as to what we're doing. Do I want to go for the full combo? We haven't done it yet. Let's give it a whirl, see how it goes. That's going to be best into a lot of the faster decks in the format, but worse into the slower decks. Okay, we can just jam Painter into Painter here. The other option is to just play the Saga and the Grindstone. I'm in blue here. They didn't do anything with that. Okay. But if our opponent is Sneak and Show, then we're going to need to do something a bit quicker. But if they're Delver, having this in play is not the... Okay, a Wasteland. That is a disaster for us. Okay, play this one out. Let's go for this Grindstone. If it doesn't resolve, we can just get it off the Saga in a bit anyway. So we just need 1 mana to try and win the game, and we are sat here with a Pyroblast ready to rock and roll. We have another Painter, so I won't stop a Lightning Bolt here. I don't think it's worth using our only red source to stop that Lightning Bolt. Would like to draw something like an Ancient Tomb, City of Traitors maybe. Ponder, I'm not going to blade blasting that one. If they find a Wasteland here, then I think they just win the game. This Painter deck is playing so incredibly different to all the other Painter decks I've played. It does feel a lot more Stompy-esque, which isn't a surprise because we're running a bunch of like high-end creatures in it. But I think my metrics on how to play this deck are a little bit off. Dragon's Channeler, we don't care about that too much. Mishra's Bauble, you carry on, opponent. So they've been to Murktide, so now they have a Delirious creature. We did not draw a land. We've got some options. We could Fury away the DRC to buy ourselves more time. We could then also deploy a Painter, and then if we find a Soul Land, we can just try and kill our opponent next turn. They go Shields down on Pyroblast, but I think that's okay. But it also goes away from us having... Actually, no, we just have the land anyway, right? Because this is a Lotus Petal... No, we still need 1 more mana of any source, but it doesn't have to be a Soul Land. Right. I'm going to try this. I wouldn't mind seeing a counter spell on this one, to be honest. Because it's a counter spell that isn't being directed at our Painter. I think given the situation we're in, I'm going to try this. Because we're not going to have any lands soon. A Daze here is really upsetting if they have it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we just got beaten by that 1 Wasteland. Brainstorm from our opponent. Another Wasteland. Oh dear, oh dear. Not where I want to be. We have a spell we can cast, which is kind of miraculous at this point. But if they can just jam a Murktide, clock is going to be on and we're going to have to find a red source to kill it. If they don't play any threats, then I guess that's okay for us. Allows us the false hope of drawing into something. If we play slower and go for like the turn 1 Fable the Mirrorbreaker line, or whatever, do we get dazed and end up in basically the same position because the Wasteland would rip through us and we wouldn't have any red mana. So it might have been a case that we were downed either way. We didn't know when that daze was in our opponent's hand. But if we thought our opponent might be a Show and Tell deck, then we're kind of incentivized to try and get something going quicker. Maybe it's just because we've just played a Show and Tell deck and we should probably be thinking Delver is a lot more common. But they didn't really do anything on turn 1, which is unusual for Delver decks. Generally, they're going to be casting a cantrip or playing a guy on turn 1. Whereas a show and tell deck might not have anything on turn 1 and then kill you on turn 2. So I don't hate the play that we did. It just didn't work out for us. It's always worth thinking about it though, because we could have done things very differently this game, and trying to work out how they would have panned out is not always the easiest thing. Maybe we're not supposed to worry about a show and tell and just say, okay, if they're going to get us, they're going to get us. Delver of Secrets. Sure. We can kill that if we want to. But we've got a lot of life to work with. That's the one thing we have going for us right now. A Pyroblast, you say? Let's flow the mana here. This is really frustrating that we don't have one more artifact. Because this Mox Opal could be really handy. We could go get the Soulguide Lantern. What the Soulguide Lantern does is stops us from dying to DRC and Murktide. Alternatively, we can get the Soulguide Lantern and just draw another card. Or we can go and get the Lotus Petal to have some guaranteed mana. If we want to pop it now to make a construct, we make a 2-2. That's not the most exciting thing. I think it's get Soulguide Lantern. Is there any single type in there? There is only one artifact. How many sorceries are there? Multiple. Okay, so we're going to take out the bauble here. Because we're hopefully going to put a creature into the graveyard soon anyway. But I think we just have to redraw here because we are struggling. Alright, the other card that we're thinking about getting anyway. Alright, so we've got Lotus Petals, we have red mana. I don't think we want to spend a Pyroblast on this Delver. We can afford to let it flip, take a hit, see what they find. They revealed a Force of Will. Okay, so maybe we can Fury, Pyroblast their Force, and pick up 1 or 2 creatures. That might be interesting. We'd love to see them play out 2 more Delvers. That would be the best thing. They're obviously not going to do that. Okay. What are we doing, deck? Give me the goods. Intriguing. So close to having enough artifacts yet again. Actually, no, we do have enough artifacts, right? Yeah, we have the Mox Opal. So now we actually have the artifacts that we need to start casting some spells. 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. Obviously, using our Lotus Petal is an enormous cost at this point. We know they have a Force of Will. Do we make them use it right now? Because we can pay around a daze right now. Is this worth your Force of Will? No. That's kind of worrying. But if they had a Murktide, they would have played it last turn, surely. At least this is game 1, so we're not going to get meltdowned. Oh, this can be Seek the Beast end step. Yeah, it's pretty solid. What do they find? They found a Murktide Regent and a Questing Druid. So now we're punished for not pitch casting this Fury, but if we pitch cast a Fury, we either lose mana or we lose one of the Pyroblasts. Because we now need to try and Pyroblast this Murktide whilst our opponent is sat there with a Force of Will in hand. Because they revealed that to the Delver on a previous turn. Oh, it's tough. Okay, they're just getting a... Oh, sorry, they're just seeking the Beast now. That is really interesting. Okay, they were looking for... What are they looking for? I don't know. Just play the Murktide and kill me already. Or maybe they don't have a blue card, and that's why they don't want to play the Murktide. Because the Murktide is their blue card. Alright. That makes some sense. But that means they're not going to play the Murktide until they have a blue card. Okay. We're going to get this Force of Will out of our opponent's hand, I suppose. This will take the Murktide along with it, though. Unless they have a Lightning Bolt, and they won't care about this. If we name blue, that gives them more blue cards of Force of Will. That is a bit of an annoying one, isn't it? I think we're supposed to name red. Make our Furies better. We've identified that they are keeping back a Murktide Regent. Wait, no, the Murktide Regent is the one in exile they could have casted. Oh, I'm really confused why I didn't cast that now, actually. They have a Force of Will. Why aren't they doing anything with it? Sorry, they have a Murktide Regent. Why weren't they playing it? Why do they just Seek the Beast again? I'm so confused by our opponent's plays here. We don't know what's in their hand. Like, their plays could be 100% right. We just don't know. But last time they did have the ability to play a Murktide. And they didn't. Oh my lord. What is this? Never seen the like before. An Ancient Tomb. I don't really want to pitch cast this Fury. We can start manually grinding our opponent. That's not the best thing in the world to do. It does come at the cost of 2 life. We have played into their wasteland here, but then it's going to be hard for them to deploy another threat. They're just going to play the Druid here. Okay. Bash me for 1. 6 cards in hand, eh? They must feel pretty comfortable over there. Yeah, there's the wasteland that we suspected. Am I? I don't think we are. But if we don't play that out, then we're never going to get to Fury on the next turn. As a hard cast thing. I don't know, maybe we could just pitch cast it to the Fury. City of Traitors, so we're kind of in the same boat here. How many spells can our opponent play at instant speed? They can probably play a Force of Will, which means our Fury doesn't do anything anyway. But we can... Alright, I think we just have to do this. Oh no, we can't pitch the City of Traitors, can we? Because we don't have Paiter in play at the moment. Alright, we just have to play the City of Traitors out. Now we could keep the City of Traitors in hand, but again, if we want to cast the Fury next turn, this gives us the ability to draw the things to make that happen. There is a Ponder. These little druids are going to get pretty scary. We probably want to start grindstoning our opponent now. I don't think we're going to be able to mill our opponent out in the time left in this game. But we need to do something here. They shuffled their library. Okay. A Delver of Secrets. Yep. The guy's getting bigger. But we know they've had a Force of Will in hand this whole time. How are we supposed to beat that? We didn't. If we'd have drawn a red card last turn, we might have been in a better shape. Maybe we just get really, really lucky and grindstone them a whole bunch. A Wasteland and a Murktide. Okay. An Arena of Glory. We can make a Hasty Fury. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we play this, we lose our City of Traitors. The Fury can't do very much. This comes in tapped actually because we don't have any mountains. Yuck. And we won't be able to Pyroblast this known Force of Will that our opponent has. If they have any spell, they win the game. If they flip this, they win the game. I just think we're dead. I think we died on like turn 2 this game, and it just took a long time. Okay, what I want to do to stop my opponent. I feel like getting hit by Wastelands is very irritating, and it keeps happening. They might have a Null Rod. So I'm intrigued in having access to this. I don't think we want Leyline of the Voids. They're not an out-and-out graveyard deck. They just have some graveyard stuff. It's worth keeping a Soulguide Lantern in, but it's not worth having the like Grafdigger's Cage or Leylines in. Meltdown is something that can get us, but we don't really care about that too much. How good is Legion Extruder? If we can get it down, we don't have that many artifacts to do it with. It can kill a Delver that's flipped, but can't kill a flipped DRC. Kind of not feeling these that much. And just keep some of the bigger haymakers. Like we've got the Pyroblast and Red Blast as well for Delvers. I don't want to side without any mana because our opponent can attack our mana quite easily. Are we getting rid of some more of the more expensive cards, get harder to cast, or are we going to get rid of something like a Grindstone? I think we get rid of a Grindstone here, actually. Because we've got 4 Sagas that can tutor them. What does this hand do? It's kind of just stuff, isn't it? Like this card might not do anything, or might be interesting with a Lightning Bolt later on down the line. We have 2 One Rings, so we can just keep trying to play something big, and we're going to have enough time to do that most likely. Alright, I'm going to give this a whirl. I'm not happy with this. My metrics are completely off playing this deck. It's quite different to the regular sort of Goblin Engineer Painter decks I'm used to playing. Like, I'm not even an expert with those decks by any stretch of the imagination, but this is just a very different beast. We're going to see a creature on turn 1, or was going to be a Ponder. They do have a creature on turn 1, okay. And a Bauble. So we kind of want to... So they're going to use this Bauble in our turn so they can flip the Delver. So, okay, we've got a plan here. So play this out. Do I want to play into a Daze right now? Our mana's kind of tied up for a while anyway, so let's try this. If they use stuff on the Painter, then maybe... Okay, well, we're just in. I said if they use stuff on the Painter, then we're more likely to resolve our rings down the line. But they might just have a Lightning Bolt for this anyway. But now we're going to start making some constructs. The construct's going to be pretty good until our opponent dress downs or meltdowns us. They didn't flip their Delver. Interesting. So now we get to hold up this Malfunction spell, as well as just having access to, and there's a Saga construct, so we can decide to save the Painter if we want to. I don't think we need to attack here. Like, what if our opponent is randomly playing a Tarfire for the purposes of Delirium? We've already seen Unholy Heat. Unholy Heat can kill our Painter Servant along with a block. We just don't need to expose ourselves to that. Just chill out. Make a construct. Get a Grindstone next turn if we want to. Once we have enough mana, we can use this Untimely Malfunction maybe to stop removal spells from bothering us. We're getting attacked, and then our opponent's probably going to cast a cantrip because they were tapping for blue and then decided to attack first instead. Like, they could have another creature because they didn't flip the Delver, so it could be a land or a creature they had. Okay, they've got a Ponder there. Wasteland is pretty strong there. Spell or ability with a single target. We're playing this around days. So this is instead of us getting a construct. So they do have some interaction. Oh, wowzers, trousers. Are we going to win because of the Untimely Malfunction? Nice Wasteland, opponent. Stop hitting yourself. Okay. If we make a construct here, then we get 1 mana from this, 1 mana from this, 1 mana from this. Okay. I think I'm going to make a construct here. We can take this a little slower if we need to. I think that's fine. I will take a Grindstone right now, though. This one I'll bash for 1. Maybe that's 2 kg. Like, we are exposing ourselves a little bit to meltdown here. While our opponent is sat there with quite obvious lightning bolt mana, I don't just want to sit there and let our creature get bolted in response. Yeah, okay, so we were right to go for the construct there. We can't do the old Grindstone ourselves for value like you can in the other ones because we don't have Welders or Phyrexian Dragon Engine. So they got a 2-2. We've got... Sorry, they got a 3-2. We got a 2-2. But we have the One Ring and stuff. I'd like to find other lands we can at least try and play this One Ring around the days. It's going to be a Murktide. Feels like a Murktide. Yeah, so maybe if we get the Soul Guide Lantern there to play around the bolt, but then they don't have to bolt our Painter. I mean, they'll probably bolt it anyway, though. A red Elemental Blast. I would like to try and get a copy of the One Ring going first. This is into a daze, though. The upside, again, the One Ring down is obviously huge, but this is into a daze. I think we should just destroy the Murktide region if we can. If they have a counter spell for this, it's got to be a hard counter, so we're not going to get the daze out of our opponent's hand that they might have. Get to crack for 2 here. And hopefully, I don't think we're using the Fury here because we want this mana off the Spirit Guide so we can cast our One Ring. Because the whole idea is to cast it around a daze next turn. Okay, so now the Fury looks a lot more tempting. If we draw a red card, we can either bait with the Fury or bait with the One Ring. Red Elemental Blast. Do you want to bait with the Fury or bait with the One Ring? We have 2 One Rings. We can One Ring around a daze quite easily, though. Green mana. A daze. Okay, so it did have the daze here. So this is going to put 3 types in. Let's see if a Channeler finds a 4th. It did not. I think I'm going to pay here. As much as I'd like to get the One Ring in, being able to sweep their board is really strong here. I wonder what that green mana is floating for. Alright. Hopefully next turn we can jam a One Ring. Brainstorm, not a bad follow-up. That's probably what they saw on top. I would certainly keep a Brainstorm on top in that situation. Fetch land to make it a clean Brainstorm. And his Big Daddy Mercs. Big Daddy Mercs. Sure. Intriguing. Very intriguing here. Do I want to play a Painter around days and then just try and kill our opponent next turn? I think I do. Let's try that. I guess we name blue. Because our Pyroblast, maybe we want to Pyroblast a Lightning Bolt on the stack. If we draw a Pyroblast next turn. So we take 5. That's like half our life total. It puts us in a situation where we are considering whether we're trying to Grindstone or get the One Ring. The One Ring beats Lightning Bolt. The Grindstone doesn't. But the One Ring gives our opponent another turn to find a Lightning Bolt. It also gives us time to find some action. It's kind of close which way we go here. Opponent's got mana up, so this could be Brazen Borrower, a Pyroblast. Okay, we are just okay here, aren't we? I think we just do this now. They cast a Borrower, we Pyroblast it. So this is the exact line that we drew up by naming the red here. So here's a, okay. Lightning Bolt. Targeting us. Okay, that's a little spooky. You got another one? Counter target spell if it's blue. Got days as well. They did not. Okay, so we tied the match. Alright, that felt okay. So, Blood Moons are a thing that we can do that stops our opponent from being able to cast a Murktide if it's in play. But this doesn't impact the board. If they've already got stuff in play, it's not very good either. It's obviously much better on the play, and it stops our Saga, which is one of the best cards in our deck. So I think we don't want them. I think we're just going to submit like this and enjoy the fact that we run a million Pyroblasts. What does this hand do? Plays a pretty mean as a Saga game. I'd like to not see a turn 1 threat if possible, but sometimes it's going to happen. We just have to live with it. It looks like a DRC. Sure. We can strip out one of the cards with the Saga Lantern. I don't think they're going to counter the Saga Lantern. A Mox Opal. Does that make a difference here? Let's get rid of that. I'm not going to play out the Mox Opal this turn. Meltdown is a thing our opponent has. If I play it out next turn, it doesn't stop our constructs being boltable. Right, so our opponent's got a preordained. Actually, is that not true? We can get the. We play Saga, Painter, and Opal. Then the turn after our construct. I guess we don't need to play the Opal straight away. We can wait until the turn after. Just so if we get Meltdown, we lose slightly fewer permanents. If we draw a Red Blast, though, that changes things. We did not draw a Red Blast. Saga in. I will deploy the Painter Servant. Our mana's going to be spoken for the next couple of turns anyway. This gives us the option to flex into a combo or not. I'm going to name red here, I think. So that our Fury is pitch castable with these mountains. I don't think we want a Fury straight away just for this Dragon's Rage Channeler. And Brainstorm. Sure. Getting rid of a Delver of Secrets. Interesting. You're brainstorming, maybe you want that Delver of Secrets because you know you can play it and flip it. That way they don't want to expose themselves to Fury, they just want to get into their big haymakers like Murktide Region and Meltdown. That would make some sense. Just trying to figure out what my opponent's doing. A Lightning Bolt targeting our poor little Scarecrow. I don't think we're cracking for this. Are we? If we crack for this, we take less damage. And our opponent can't play a Murktide easily next turn. But if they interact with us, maybe we want to crack this in their upkeep so they can't play a Murktide. Because they might have even more cards in there. We want to kill the DRC before we remove stuff, ideally. Okay, so we didn't draw a red card for this Fury now. That is unfortunate. So I think we play the Mountain and the Mox. The Mox doesn't stop them from being gobbled up though. So are we need to make a decision now about what we're doing with Saga Lantern. I think we need to stop them casting a Murktide this time. We're not in a position to deal with Murktide. We need a little bit more breathing room to leverage these Sagas. Wasteland's so good. Let's get this Saga on the road. We've got a powerful 1/1. Equally largest creature on the board. Do you want to get this other Saga running? Do we draw a red card? We drew a Lightning Bolt. Is it worth pitch casting to kill these two creatures? Like, that's pretty strong. It does cost us a Lightning Bolt though. If we wait one turn, we could hard cast this, but that's into days. 4 cards. I think we are pitch casting this. This is a pretty good force of will if our opponent has it. Oh, they got Hydroblast. That's even worse. Oh, don't do it to me. Yeah, that's an absolute disaster. I'll play this out so I can chump block a 1/1 creature. So I can not chump block a 1/1 creature even. So I can block it. Oof. Yeah, this feels a little awkward. They might not even have Force of Wills left in their deck at this point. They might have just boarded them all out if they've got Hydroblast and Meltdowns and more removal. I'd rather have that against the Painter deck than a counter spell that costs us another card. Right, so we're only getting attacked with the Insect this turn. We're still on a pretty healthy life total, and we're going to start making some pretty hefty boys. So we're very much in the let's hope our opponent doesn't make a Murktide Regent, then we can probably race territory. Ancient 2, not really the one we're after. I'll attack, I think, here. Make our guy now, just forces extra 1 point damage. The downside of this is it makes our opponent's Meltdown better. We're going to Unholy Heat our guy that is unblocked anyway, sure. They have to do it in the timing of us doing the Saga. So we could have forced through 2 damage if we wanted to then. By just, well, we didn't know they had the removal spell. Like, we're playing around Lightning Bolt where it doesn't matter, but we didn't know it was specifically Unholy Heat. They left a card on top. We're really feeling the fact that our opponent is a deck full of card selection, and we are not here. And their hits are just a lot more frequent, and we're just sort of treading water a little bit. Right, we're going down to 10 now. If they can flip these channelers and bolt us, that's it. So, pretty scary time to be us. Right, we'll make another friend. What do we get here? What actually helps us? Grindstone gives us a draw to Paiter. We now have 4/4s. I will be attacking with my 4/4 here. But yeah, we just have a little bit too much mana and not enough spells. Getting our ratio of mana to spells has been a persistent problem this league. Are they going to get us with some Delirium guys? So far, no. Still no. They're bolting in the upkeep. That is lethal anyway, right? Because then we block one of these and we take 4. Yeah. Yeah, we just got dealt with there. This deck is really difficult to play compared to other Painted decks because it just plays so differently, and I'm struggling a bit with it today, to be honest with you. We are a pretty dismal 1 and 3. So let's go the final round and see if we can get some play points back and a little bit of our self-respect. Okay. If we were to keep this hand, it would be very much going for a Grindstone line. So we could go turn 1, Saga, turn 2, City, Painter, turn 3, kill them. Or we can start cranking out some tokens. I'm not confident that this is the way we should go, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm trying to explore this deck and its play patterns. And sometimes you've got to make some bad decisions to learn from it, and I feel like that's what we've been doing a lot of today. Alright, are we in some kind of mirror match, perhaps? If they play a Blood Moon here. Yikes. That is awkward for us. So they've just him to Turret us on turn 1. Not really where I want to be. Okay, so I'll play this one out. So Urza Sagas just die immediately under a Blood Moon. Sagas work in a mysterious way. Shatter Skull Smashing. So our opponent is probably on a pretty classical Stompy list. A Chalice. I'm going to Lightning Bolt my opponent's face. So we could keep this as a card to throw away to Fable, but we already have 2 of those in these Urza Sagas. So I'm going to take my 3 damage. Maybe it's relevant, maybe it's not. We'll find out. 1 ring. That is certainly something I can do things with later on. Just get this one down. We will name... Our Pyroblast is just off. So there's no point trying to do stuff with Pyroblast. We have a way of answering. In the main deck, can we answer a Chalice of the Void on 1? No. So we can name red. That will help our opponent's Furies as well as ours. Do we want to help our opponent's Furies as well as ours? We don't have a Fury in hand right now, but we have cards we'd very much like to have some use for. So I think we'll name red so that we at least have a chance of using these Urza Sagas for something at some point. If we can just hit some more lands and One Ring, that's good, but we can't combo our opponent in this game because of the Chalice and the Blood Moon. That locks us out of doing that because we can't remove either, and Saga is our only way of getting a Grindstone that doesn't care about Chalice. Our opponent's gone for locking us out, but hasn't actually got anything to contribute to the board here. So we'll crack in for an almighty 1 damage. I'll play this Mox Opal just in case there's another Chalice down the line. We only need 1 more artifact and then we can start actually tapping it for mana. And then we can get access to our big 4-drops. But I've kind of struggled to cast some 4-drops this league. It's been tough. There is a Fury pitching a Blood Moon. Okay, if they're pitching a Fury, that's not the end of the world for us. Right, so we're going to lose our Painter. But that's A-okay with me. That's a Fury that's not going to be attacking us once I hit 5 mana, so I'll take that. A Lightning Bolt, another card we can't cast. Okay. It's going to be a slow one, this. It doesn't take much for it to break it open on either side. We're both just trying to draw mana. And we're both very bad at it. Right, I've got Stone Spirit Guy. We're going to see something like a Rabble Master or a Lelia. A Magus. Okay. Well, I get to kill it with this lovely lightning. Oh, wait, no, I don't. Okay. We try and have fun with it, even when we're getting pummeled. It's okay. Oh, Lord. So, Urza Sagas don't work underneath this. We're going to have to discard at end of turn anyway, and we're going to discard a Saga. So I'm just going to show you that this doesn't work. There you go straight to the bin. Because we're going to discard it anyway, because we want to keep the red cards for pitching to Fury, more than we want a land that we'll never be able to do anything with. A Chrome Mox. Alright, our opponent's cooking now. They're going to be able to follow up with another 3-drop. Is it a Realmmaster? Oh, it's a Broadside Bombardiers. Alright, so now the clock has very much turned against us. Maybe they'll throw the Chalice of the Void. I don't expect our opponent will. They've already seen Lightning Bolt from us. And also they don't need to do any of these things because they're already really far ahead. So we'll play this one because it's just easier than going to discard. Our opponent's probably thinking we're some sort of clown, but it's just slightly quicker to play an Urza Saga than it is to go to your cleanup. Because you can't just F6 through the rest of your turn after you've played it. Okay, so we take 4 this turn. Are we going to take any more damage? No, they're just going to continue this. A Legion Extruder. Boy howdy, we found a card we can cast. Sign me up. Extrude your legions. Extrude it like a crisp. Like a Monster Munch. For those who know what Monster Munch are. I don't know where in the world you're listening from. Probably my favourite extruded crisp snack. That or chipsticks. Yes, we are definitely in the zone of just talking nonsense while we're waiting for this mono-red opponent to just pummel us into the dirt. We do get to make a 3-3 next turn. So we do have the biggest thing on the board. Maybe we're not going to get pummeled into the dirt. Because this Mox Opal can become a 3-3. A Chrome Mox from our opponent. 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So this is going to be something like a Pyrogoyf, isn't it? And annoyingly, our Pyrogoyfs don't kill our opponent's Pyrogoyfs. We will require the mana... Well, we require like double Pyrogoyf. Or Fury plus... Okay. Just the one ring. It's our opponent's last card in hand. Not a bad one. Yikes. Well, well, well. If it isn't a useless card that we don't want. We'll go to clean up and we will bin off one of our Red Blast, I believe. They are the least useful looking card here. I think we might just be boarding out all the Red Blast as well. So our opponent's Chalice. It's going to be good. Depends how many cards we actually have to board in. I'm not sure what we have. Let's have a quick look at the sideboard while we're getting pummeled here. Not really a lot of options to board in here. Untimely Malfunction looks good. And maybe Disruptor Flute. Are you attacking here? Okay. I don't know if I'm making a 3-3 or not. I think we probably should try and pressure our opponent's life total. Our life total is under a bit of pressure too. Oh, look, an artifact we can't cast. So, what do we have? We have instants. I'm just trying to work out to make sure our Pyrogoyf does more stuff when the time comes. Sacrifice another artifact. So we can sacrifice our Golem and play and just have a blocker as well. That's not the worst thing, is it? We get to play Sword and Shield with it. It's kind of cool. Alright, they're just preserving their life total because they know that if they just leverage the one ring, they should be able to win the game. That is a solid way to consider things being. Alright, Red Blast, out you go. This is also sacrifice another, so I can't sacrifice it to itself. But I can sacrifice tokens to make tokens. Alright, our opponent's going to 8 on their next upkeep. Minus any amount of damage that we can put on them. I don't see us being able to get these Pyrogoyfs out in time. It's going to be a broadside. Another copy of the One Ring. Okay. That's pretty good. Are they going to keep the one with counters or are they going to keep the fresh one? Like the fresh one can draw them a card right now and then a couple next turn. Alright, they decide to keep the fresh one. They may or may not tap it. Okay, no, they're just going straight in. Sure. So maybe we can win via our opponent's own One Rings. It's a little sketch. We need to try and find ourselves the mana to cast our spells. Alright, we've got another Chrome Mox. And we're imprinting. What do we got over here? What is that? A Sundering Eruption, okay. All right, it's a 2/2. Oh, we found a mountain. Praise be to the mountain gods. With no point attacking our opponent. We could try and attack them and get them with a Legion Extruder thing, but what we can try and do here is if our opponent plays a Fury or something and tries to kill our golem, we then turn it into a new 3/3. And if our opponent draws a card here, next turn they go to 8, and our Pyrogoyf's looking pretty chunky. I do not feel the safest right now. What are all our opponent's cards? They can't do anything with them. They just got like nothing but blood moons. And more chalices. Like you still just play out the chalices on one, because then when you get broadside you just have some free things to fling. So I don't know what our opponent has over there. Just a bunch of lands. There is the Fury. So they're going to target our... So this is the exact play that I called out. Now our 3/3 does not stack up well into a Fury. But if we can find a land and just play a Pyrogoyf, then we're doing alright. So we have the option of just Pyrogoyf in our opponent's face, then Pyrogoyf in their opponent's face the next turn. Or we could just take out this Fury. But if we Pyrogoyf our opponent's Fury, next turn the Pyrogoyf sees the other Pyrogoyf and kills them anyway. Alternatively, we can draw absolutely nothing. I guess we play this Fable out. That's probably the one. Maybe we should have played the Fable out last turn. Maybe that was just a mistake. Maybe we're just all over the shop today. It worked out for us with the Legion friend. Because otherwise we just lose the... Do we lose this? We probably lose the Shaman rather than the Golem when we've gotten Legion Extruder sat in play. But we would have got to draw some cards quicker. Yeah, we should have played the Fable last turn. It's my bad. This looks like a rather large Shatter Skull Smashing. I certainly have lethal. Yeah, we can see this one. Yeah, I was sort of checked out of that game a little bit earlier than I should have been because it just all fell apart for us, really. Okay, so we have these 3 cards and we'll get rid of some blasts. That's probably about the best we can do. This at least cantrips. We don't have enough cards for this matchup to board out all the stuff that doesn't look great in this matchup. Okay. Right, we're on the play. Our hand does nothing. Let's mulligan. This hand looks unplayable as well. I don't know. Like, we're not going to be able to leverage these sagas. Like, we could try. We could try and leverage the sagas and hope they board out the blood moons because we're a mono red deck. But they know we run as a saga, so would they keep the blood moons? Have they got enough cards to do that? That's a bit of a gamble. I think we can do better than this rather than gambling on that. Turn 1, 1 ring. Okay, done. I guess we get rid of Lightning Bolt and probably a Fury here. Or do we keep the Fury just because we know we're going to need removal and the 1 ring's going to do the rest of the work for us? Okay, I believe in you, 1 ring. I think the amount of games I've lost with a turn 1 1 ring are close to 0, if not 0. Across all the decks I've played 1 rings in. And there's a Saga. Not a great hit. So part of the problem now is that we have a lot of dead cards in our deck because of the nature of how this matchup looks. We went all in on the 1 ring and now we got nothing. It's one of those leagues. Lovely people out there. It's kind of checked me out a little bit already in this league. I'm just having a miserable time. We do get to play a Saga. How long can we expect this Saga to last for? I don't know. But I think it's okay to play this one out. Now, if our opponent just plays a Blood Moon, sure, whatever. But this is a disaster. Okay, our opponent doesn't have anything else going on over there. They probably just have Furies and stuff. Okay, we didn't find any lands to make our Saga look better. The City of Traitors not being Ancient Tomb has already jammed us up there. Obviously, we'd be at a lower life tail now, but we'd at least be able to do something. We need to find that Malfunction card. Let's float some mana here. Then we go and get a Mox Opal. Because we don't want to get a Mox Opal because we want... But if we're ever going to remove this, we probably do want a Mox Opal, right? Oh dear, oh dear. Not looking great. We have 3 permanents, all of which are shut off by a Null Rod. I'm not particularly happy with how I played this round, or even this league in general. Like, there's quite a steep learning curve on this, which is quite different from other Painter decks. I'm struggling with it. But this is an absolute beating. So we're trying to find... Okay, so now we've already got the Grindstone in play. So there is that. If we can get rid of this null rod using the malfunction thing, sure. But at least there's... I guess we're doing it again. At least there... Like, we could hold this for a few turns, but we don't know how long we're going to be able to even get Saga stuff going for. We may as well try and thin our deck and get that other card out of it. Maybe we draw some lands in running turns and we get to deploy something. But I don't think we've... Have we cast a Pyrogoyf this entire league? They've just sat in our hand. Okay. If we draw a land next turn, we can cast Paiter. And we have Grindstone. All we need then is the mana to activate it and the spell to blow up the null rod. Before our opponent finds the Fiery Confluence and just blows up all of our stuff. Now, they're into cleanup mode. Multiple times this league, we've had an opponent sat in cleanup mode and they've beaten us. That doesn't feel good. Wow, okay. We get to do a thing. What would I like here? Would I like some more mana for when the time comes? I think so. Play this out. Play this out. I'm going to name blue. Now, I suspect our opponent probably has access to an amount of Furies or Pyrogoyfs in their deck. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Fury hit a guy, but we're kind of locked under stuff, so they're not super scared of that yet. Red, red. What are we going to see here? No. Decided not to. Right, just going to clean up instead of casting the thing that they might have been able to cast. Okay, they're going to put another Chalice into play. I think that's probably correct if you can do it. This probably means they have an instant speed piece of interaction like an Abrade or something. Okay. We are getting close to where we need to be. We need another mana. We need our opponent to not make a Chalice on 2. We can still beat that if we can draw the lands, but we're having real troubles with our mana today. Okay, they got Chrome Mox. That doesn't work because of the null rod. But this is probably just going to be a thing that they fling to a Broadsword Bombardiers down the stretch. If they put something into it, it means that they're waiting for us to blow up their null rod. It's kind of interesting. All right. We got rid of Pyrogoyf. Have they just realised that their own null rod is shutting off their own Chrome Mox? I think they have. Okay. I'll take that. So they got a 3-drop they want to cast. Probably Broadside. We just need a little bit more mana. Okay, we have the win. This is not a drill. So if they play a Broadside, we probably have to blow up the null rod first, because the null rod is a thing that they can just throw at our Painted Servant if they attack. And then we just want to let them go to attacks. What is this? It's just going to be an Abrade, and then we malfunction it and blow up their null rod. That'd be so sick. Chalice for 1. Okay, I think we're going to have this game now. This is a very good example of why you need pressure, not just prison pieces. I would like to destroy target artifact, please. Goodbye, null rod. Could have drawn some extra cards with One Ring if we wanted to. I don't think we need to. Let me just... I like to see more cards. Let's have another look. We have the mana to kill our opponent here. I'll play one of these. So we can play out a second Painted Servant now, just in case there's something weird that we don't know about. Do they have an Emrakul they've sideboarded in, just to really jab us up? But we've got double Painter. Okay, they scooped. So they don't have an Emrakul. Good news. Okay, I think we don't really have any other choices for our sideboarding. I would like to board out some more blasts or whatever, but it's not an option, so let's just go in. Yeah, our opponent just kept some suppressive elements. They're very strong against us. But we kind of got to ignore them eventually. And we could have just played Pyrogoyfs if we drew lands, but once again, we were in a game where we were sat with these 4-drops in hand and we just couldn't cast them. And I haven't even boarded out any lands this time. Saga, start cranking, hope they don't have Blood Moon, and then maybe pivot to the One Ring. Alright, I can give that a whirl. This is also pretty good against a Null Rod. If they just go turn 1 Null Rod, we can just go Saga and get busy. It's probably going to be a Fable if they're pitching. Could be a Blood Moon. It is a Blood Moon. Okay, so they did keep the Blood Moons in. Understood. But we have some cards that do stuff. Let's get Basic Mountain going. We've got some Lightning Bolts so we can tangle with creatures. Although they're probably just going to play Chalice and lock us out of doing that. But we'll see. Okay, nothing over there yet. If we can just keep drawing lands, we'll be okay here. Don't want to play out this Painted Servant or don't want to hold up for killing Broadside Bombardiers. I think I'm going to play this Painter out. And then blue, and then our Pyroblast is live. We can blow up the Blood Moon or we can just start attacking our opponent's mana depending on what we draw. So this is a turn where they can Fury or Chalice of Void and kind of shut off a bunch of lines for us. Volcanic Fissure, which is just a mountain. Okay, so now we just get to sit with a counter spell. With a hard counter for... Oh no, they're doing something. Another Blood Moon. Well, we're already underneath one, so that's fine. I guess we're not going to strip one of the Blood Moons away. We could attack our opponent's mana, but I think we're just going to hit their spells. Oh, we found a land. Big fan of finding a land here. I will deploy this Saga Lantern. It's just going to be a redraw down the stretch, but that's fine. And then we just get to start bashing. And then hopefully we can draw ourselves into another mana source. And then we can just deploy the One Ring. Although I would like to deploy the One Ring with Pyroblast backup. So I can deal with a Null Rod. But I guess we can always just untap and do it. It's if they do Null Rod and Chalice in the same turn cycle that we get jammed up. So what fresh hell is this? The One Ring. Counter target spell if it's blue, please. This one. A very nice turn for us there. I'd like to draw a card here. We found the land, so we get to do the One Ring now. Beautiful. Alright, we're making it work here. So we're looking for... Obviously Grindstone is fantastic, but Pyrogoyfs are reasonable. Furies are okay. We've got other removals, so we're happy to just play it as a threat. Our opponent's up to 4 mana now, so now they can start doing their own Pyrogoyf nonsense. We've already seen they have Pyrogoyfs because they imprinted one on a Chrome Mox in the previous game. And every red deck like this is going to be running Pyrogoyfs now. Does feel like Pyrogoyf. Could be the Fiery Confluence. They're just going to blow up our Painter and dome us. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Pyrogoyf killing our creature, pressuring our life total is less fine. Like, we do have answers for it. But Pyrogoyf now looking pretty tasty. There's a creature in there as well. Legion Extruder. Let's draw some more cards, see what we find. The One Ring, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, just all the hits here. So I guess we're going to go Fable. Do we need to play the Legion Extruder right now? What is it realistically doing for us? I think we're just going to hold these Lightning Bolts. That way, if they play some sort of Broadside Bombardiers and something else, we can kill it before it gets to fling. Not a big fan of getting hit by one of these. They're already an instant in the graveyard, so we can kill this with a double bolt if we want to. We can double bolt it right now. And then untap. That's probably fine. Just be efficient with our mana. Because if we're drawing 3 cards plus whatever we get off the Fable, that's a lot. So we let this trigger resolve, and then with the Fable trigger on the stack, then we draw the cards. Because then we have more stuff to decide what we're pitching. Okay, obviously getting rid of this as a Saga. Oh, sorry, we need to let this trigger resolve first, don't we? So get rid of this as a Saga. That's an obvious one. It's probably the Pyroblast. If we find a Painter, the Pyroblast is an interesting object. Maybe it's the Arena of Glory. We already have quite a lot of land. Okay. I don't hate what we are seeing here. So we get to attack. Pyrogoyf also 6/7. Jam this one. We can jam a Pyrogoyf. Leaves us 3 mana, so we can play another Fable. Seems like a pretty tricky position to lose a game from. Like, if they still had a Pyrogoyf in play, then maybe they could just play another Pyrogoyf and dome us. But now we get to like blow up all their stuff. We've got another One Ring for protection next turn. I think we'll drain this One Ring for a few more cards and then just get a bubble up. Alright, they're scooping it up because we have exactly 10 damage. They didn't have anything. Alright, so we finished with a 2-3 in this league, which is not a great result. But I had a really tough time playing this deck. I think all my general heuristics for playing Painter are kind of out the window because this build feels a lot more like a Stompy deck with Painter in than a Painter deck. we're not doing like the Phyrexian Dragon Engine draw effects that we normally have. So I'm used to Painter being able to manipulate its draws on relatively low mana via, you know, welding in and out stuff that draws you cards, discards you cards, having your tutors in the form of your engineers, that sort of jam. And we just don't have any of that. So let's talk about the list. So the first thing that I noticed is we were quite often struggling to cast spells. Our mana felt quite fragile at times, so Wastelands absolutely buried us a couple of times. I think we could have played better against the Wastelands. I think there was definitely one game that was on us where we just didn't play the Disruptor Flute. Just not a great play from us there. We could have just tried to prevent it. Now, I don't think it mattered. I think they had the days anyway, but it slows things down perhaps, and maybe gives us a chance if they didn't have the days right then, or if they drew it the next turn. But I think that's definitely something we could have done. It felt very hard to leverage Urza Sagas right now. People were sort of attacking you quite quickly, or they're messing with your mana. And that felt a little bit awkward. The red matchup, I'm surprised we won that one, to be honest, because we don't have that many cards to bring in for them. And we have a lot of stuff that doesn't feel great. You know, all these Pyroblasts don't seem particularly useful. And we've got these Sagas that are very stinky as well in that matchup. So that's kind of interesting that we managed to win that one. I don't know if our opponent should have been mulliganing their hand more. I don't know. It does feel like we're very much trying to do the Stompy thing here, but it didn't feel like we were able to get up to the manas for the Pyrogoyfs and the Furies as often as I'd like. Now, if we were just jamming early One Rings more often, then maybe we're fine there. But that's just not how these games played out. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan more aggressively for those sorts of hands. I'm obviously not particularly happy with how I played that one. This is a big learning experience playing something that's quite different to other Painter decks. And I'm certainly not like a mono-red Stompy guy either. So I don't have the pre-established skill sets to just pick something like this up and be plugged straight in with it. Like, we had choices sometimes to go for Painter lines, choices to go for like slower Fable the Mirror Breaker lines, but it was like, are we playing around days for this or not? And we sort of made some decisions. I think if you play this a lot more, you're going to get better. Obviously, Callum, who won the challenge, is a very talented magician, and they are an excellent Painter player. So definitely full respect to him for winning that challenge. I think I would need a lot more experience to really thoroughly assess this deck and how it lies. But I think a lot of 4-drops and not being able to cast 4-drops was a thing that we experienced a little bit more than I would like today. Now, I don't know if that's just us getting unlucky or if that's something more fundamental with the deck or the way I'm playing or mulliganing. Again, it's a thing you have to have more games to see. I also felt like some of the sideboarding, we didn't feel like we had that many cards to bring in certain matchups, and we had a lot of stuff we didn't necessarily want. Another thing I would note is Pyrogoyf feels really, really hard for us to interact with, because our Pyrogoyfs never cleanly kill it, so it always has to be 2 of our cards to kill it, unless we have Painter Blast. Obviously, Painter Blast is your nice catch-all that does kind of everything you want, but it did feel like Pyrogoyf was a particularly annoying, aggressive creature when we're sat there with just Pyroblast and we can't kill their creatures. But that is kind of the downside of playing red sometimes. You can't kill some of the bigger creatures. And Painter tries to cover that base using the blast, and quite often it works. It didn't really work for us today, though. Overall, I think I would prefer playing a more traditional looking Painter list. I currently like the ones that have the Engineer but no Welder. I quite like those, although I did play against somebody who's running a really old school build with Recruiters and Lions Like Diamonds, and that absolutely smashed me the other day and it looked really cool. So definitely would be interested to see more of that. And if you want to see more Painter content, by all means check out Lightwalker's channel. I'll put a link in the description. They play basically only Painter. And now I'm sure they're going to play Callum's list here at some point on the channel if they haven't already. And yeah, he just makes really good Painter content and is much more knowledgeable and experienced with the archetype than I am. So if you want some more insightful look at how to play this deck, by all means check their content out. All right. I guess that's done for today. Please remember to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.